Good morning, folks, and welcome to. We have a fantastic interview this morning. I'm Mark Beggs, and you'll be able to find all our interviews on YouTube and just search for Mark Beggs Talks To. Now, this morning we're talking to Marie Canning, and Marie is a police officer with the Devon and Cornwall Police, and she's also one of the founders and the chairperson of the Police National Dyslexic Association. So what we're doing for Dyslexic Week is we're looking at different industries, and one industry we're looking at, and we call it an industry because of how big it is a police force. And we're looking at the police force, which is made up of all different police forces in the UK. So we have Devon and Cornwall, and Maria has also worked with Essex Police. We're going to be talking to somebody else from another police force and someone else from the Midlands Police. And it's just to get an overview of how working within the police structure, dyslexia works for you or doesn't work for you. And just to give you an idea on the challenges and how it can actually help your career as well. So Maria, good morning. Welcome to the talk.
Hi, good morning, Mark. Thank you for inviting me. It's a privilege to be here.
No problem. No, we usually start off with a question. And the first question, just to get things moving. So, Mission Impossible movies or Harry Potter? Which would you prefer?
Harry Potter.
Oh, you're going with Harry Potter. Okay. So
Yeah, I've done every one of them. It's a,
now
it's
I
a
would have
nice,
thought.
strong, rainy weekend thing to do.
Well, I would have thought now. Fast cars, rescue operations, Mission Impossible. But and I can understand Harry Potter, and it's interesting. As you know, I'm dyslexic. When I read my children the Harry Potter, the first book, I was then invited by a bank at the time to the premiere in Dublin, and I brought
Oh,
my two
wow.
kids. And as we were leaving the cinema, they said, "Dad, that was great. Why did they change all the names in it?" I said, "What? The names you told us," because I couldn't pronounce Hermione. I couldn't pronounce all those names, right? I had changed all the names when I used to read them the stories, except
Yeah,
Harry. So I had changed all the stories, all the stories.
I love
So
that. It's a coping mechanism, isn't it?
it is,
But
yeah.
I do, yes, fast cars, bit of Maverick, a bit of action. I love all of that. But I don't know, it's the magic that you get in Harry Potter.
Oh, it is, yeah,
Probably why I
absolutely.
love Christmas. I've
Yeah, well,
appreciated it's the magic of
my
it.
youngest, if she wants a bit of not comfort food but comfort watching, she will watch the whole lot of all the Harry Potters again,
Oh,
and it makes her feel fantastic. She must know most of the scripts by now, but she loves the Harry Potter movies. It puts her into a good place, and yet the magic of it and the music, all that type of
yeah,
stuff, it's just
yeah,
fantastic, just
yeah.
fantastic. All right, so let's talk about yourself. Um, you were diagnosed. How old were you when you were diagnosed with dyslexia?
So unofficially, but told that I had dyslexia was between the age of 8 and 10. I was still in primary school, which is why I find the topic really interesting around the bill that Jamie Oliver and other people are trying to get through Parliament around the teacher training bill and
Yes.
screening children at the age of 5. There's a lot of controversy with that. And do you want to label children? Is it fair? Are we singling them out? And I said to somebody recently, every child's labeled already. You're labeled as neurotypical. And actually, if you're neurodivergent and you're not in a setting where you can thrive and instead you're struggling, isn't it better to at least know? And so for me, it's quite impactful. I still remember it. I was stood, or my mum was stood, sort of, I guess, in the corridor or in the hallway at the school, and I remember running up and down this slope, and then she was speaking to the teacher. And when we got home, she said, "Oh, the teacher's told me that you have something called dyslexia. It doesn't matter. It's not, don't worry about it. It doesn't mean that you're different or unusual. It just means that you're going to read things in a different way. You're going to write differently. You might have some challenges with spelling and some communication and organization and things like that. And that the school should go through that with me and support me. And so don't worry about it, but be aware, I guess."
Right. Okay. And on the label front, I suppose we always label people because from kids from a young age, you're a great artist. You're very good at maths. You're very good at this. So it's just
Mm,
the dyslexia label is the lack of teaching people in the right way to cope with that label is the challenge.
mm.
But when you went in school, like and you knew you were dyslexic. You might have known exactly what it was about. How did you see yourself compared to your friends? Like, was school easy for you? Was it more difficult for you? Did you feel at a disadvantage?
So I don't remember too much in terms of primary school. It is more secondary school that I have more vivid memories, albeit I do remember being told that. So I guess that's one that's definitely impacted me.
Hmm.
I know that I didn't really enjoy much about primary school. I had no real interest in wanting to be there. And I don't think I had much interest in wanting to learn. Now, I was only very recently diagnosed with ADHD as well, in adult life. And so I don't know if maybe both of those strands caused that lack of interest, and whether they were, I definitely remember struggling with reading when I was younger,
Yeah.
which probably meant I didn't really enjoy doing it or trying. When I went into senior school, I was offered some support in the beginning where I would go, or a teacher would come in. That didn't work. I then felt different. You're being looked at. Why have you got someone sat with you? So they changed that to allow me to go in lunchtimes to like an extra classroom and go and do some extra English and things like that. But you're then segregated still. You're
You
not
are,
going to
yeah.
lunch with your friends. You're now going off somewhere else.
Well, it's like a big spotlight now being pointed
Yeah,
at,
absolutely. Where are you going? What are you doing?
and you do that walk out of class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't really tell many people that I was dyslexic. And I suppose, I mean, I did struggle in school. I didn't get very good GCSEs and I had to redo some extra work when I joined the police because of that. But I guess I just sort of sat in the back, I suppose. I didn't mess around. I would ask friends quite a bit, have I done that right? Is that the right answer? And not in the way of cheating, but just sort of constantly double checking
Yeah.
myself and
Yes.
making sure that I understand what's happening. But I definitely remember I would never ask the teacher. I would never put my hand up and say, oh, have I done it right? I would quietly ask the person next to me. So again, I suppose that shows that like self-confidence and
Lack of confidence and all.
self-esteem.
And is it, no, you didn't tell people you were dyslexic. Do you openly tell people now?
Mm. Being the chair of a national network, you
Yeah, but
probably have to. Yeah, it's probably in the job
before the chair
description.
came along, like before you start the organization and you joined the police force, we opened like just as for saying it, we opened about saying it.
So not at first. So it came at the age of 27 when I was where I felt very strongly and very proud that I can stand up and say I'm dyslexic and that's why I do it this way.
Yes.
So between sort of leaving school and the age of 27, because I joined the police at about the age of 24, I would say it when I had to, and when it was necessary. So when I tried to join Essex Police, it asks you, have you got any disability? Click yes. What is it? Dyslexia. Okay. Have you got a formal diagnosis? I didn't have one at the time, so I'm disclosing it when necessary, but
Right.
not to everybody.
Yes.
Once in the police, because I got through everything with some extra support and some extra bits that I needed to do. And like you have a tutor for several weeks. So again, yes, I would let that tutor know, look, I am dyslexic, but I didn't tell all of this. So you're with like several other people. So I didn't tell any of those that I was dyslexic. So it was just the individual that needed to know.
That's what it goes. Yeah.
And then when I was 27, I remember I was in charge of a team of people. And it was the first thing I told them, I am dyslexic, so I'm going to manage you differently. I might
Right.
ask you to do something and you might think that's weird. Just come and ask me. Come and ask me why I'm doing something differently. And I'm also open to hear what you think is better. And I remember an inspector turned around to me and said, I absolutely commend you for what you've just done. You've just taken over a brand new team of people as a sergeant. And the first thing you've done is shown them what other people would perceive as a weakness.
Yeah.
I think that takes real strength. Well
It
done.
does. Yeah.
And so it
It
kind
does
of went
take.
from there, really.
Yeah. And just come back and say now, before you joined the police, and we talk about why somebody would want to join the police, where a massive amount of paperwork, a massive amount of procedure, notebooks, pens, everything that a dyslexic person would run away from, right? You had other careers before that. One of them was a real hands-on one, which you're a trained mechanic.
I am, yeah, trained car mechanic. Yeah.
So, and training as a mechanic, I'm probably right in saying there's not a massive amount of paperwork. It's really
No.
getting in and doing it.
Yeah, that's right. When you get to level 3, you do all the diagnostics. That's when it gets heavier. But yeah, it's far more hands-on and all about the puzzle pieces that you're putting together that the dyslexic brain likes.
Yeah, and it loves all that type of stuff. So you've gone from something that is hands-on, and like you're 15 years now in the police, but you've gone from something that was hands-on, being a mechanic, that type of stuff, which is probably natural for a lot of people who are dyslexic, carpentry, plumbing,
Yeah.
mechanics, even architects, stuff that are out in the open or they're getting their hands dirty on, that type of stuff. Even arborists and gardeners and all that type of stuff, they all go for that type of industry because it's because one is not heavy with paper, and two is what they like doing, as you said, solving puzzles and putting things back together again.
Yeah, that practical creativity.
Yeah. So what took you from that type of stuff to wanting to go into stuff where there's a lot of paper, there's a lot of writing, and you have to be, and even worse, you have to produce your notebooks and your writing in court
Mm.
if you want prosecution. So you have to make sure all that is taken out right and in the right sequence. Like that's a big jump.
It is, and it's definitely been a journey,
Yeah, I'd
and a
say it
steep
was. Yeah.
learning curve. So as but when I was sort of 16, 17, leaving school, I went into in the catering hospitality world. I worked as a chef in several places. I worked in bar work. I worked in nightclubs. It was all very hands-on, but with the public, and liking to offer a service to the public and making sure that they'd be happy with what they're receiving. And obviously, you also have, I was a manager of a sandwich bar for several years as well. And you have that customer relation where, you know, there is a bit of conflict and they've been given something they don't like, and you have to deal with all of that. So I had all of that experience and all of that creativity and that kind of thing. And it was all very hands-on. And at one point, I wanted to become a lawyer, which again, I think is
More
one of
heavy
the top,
paperwork, more
yeah, one of the
reading.
top things in paperwork. If you're not in the police, then becoming a lawyer or a solicitor. And I, unfortunately, I don't know if unfortunately, I don't regret it, but I was talked out of that with, I think, sort of 7 years at university. I would needed to have redone my GCSEs, A levels, then university, passing a bar, and it didn't look like a viable option
Right.
without a lot of strength. Funnily enough, the PNDA now support the CPS with all neurodiversity related stuff across the UK, and we meet loads of lawyers that are neurodiverse, and loads that are dyslexic, and it's brilliant meeting them because you can do anything as a dyslexic if you put
Which,
your mind
which
to
a
it.
lot of people listen to this who have children who are dyslexic or who have partners who are dyslexic or family members would be probably thinking career paths for their family, something not paper.
Yeah,
And then we
yeah, they'll be going more creative, more
yeah,
hands-on types of
and
roles.
then
But
we
no,
have
you can do anything.
well that isn't that the point because then we have yourself
Yeah,
putting on heavy paperwork and then talk about people in CPS, which is the Crown Prosecution Service in the UK, where there's lawyers who again reading massive books for qualifications, case
absolutely.
studies, heavy reading stuff.
I know, but yeah, it's about it's not, neurodiversity doesn't have to be a barrier. There are just coping strategies that you have to put in place. You have to be realistic and accept that you're going to do stuff in a different way, and that's fine. We're all, everybody in the world is neuro different. So I want to get away from these two terms, neurodiversity and
Yeah.
neurotypical, because we're all just neurodifferent. No one's brain's the same as someone else's. So you're all going to do stuff differently, and it's about understanding that, managing that, accepting limitations if you have them, preparing yourself for those challenges, and then going full steam ahead. So in terms of like why I ended up in the police, I traveled, so I qualified after like the hospitality. I went into car mechanics, wanted to do something really involving kind of puzzle pieces and building something. I then went traveling around the world on my own. I don't
So
do, I don't do anything by halves.
yeah.
And even that, it's so funny to think back on it. So my neurodiverse brain was like, right, what way do I want to do this? And I was like, I need to go as far away as possible before I took myself out of doing this because it's quite scary at the age of 21. And then I'm
Absolutely.
going to work my way home. So I literally got on a plane and flew to Australia.
Right.
And
So
then
you're at the furthest point you can be, and now we have to
and
track
obviously I've got
down.
to get home again. So yeah, I made my way home. But I met someone in Australia, and obviously, you know, you're out there, you're on your own, you're in hostels, you got to keep your wits about you. So someone said, oh, I reckon you'd be a good police officer. You're really street smart, you're really wise, and you're a kind person. So I kind of took that on board, but I was like, no, I'm a car mechanic. I'm going down this route. I came home, and a short while after being home, I'll cut a long story short, but someone who I thought was a friend ended up taking out a credit card in my name, racked up, I think it was £2,000 or £3,000, and didn't pay a penny of it. So I then had the card company and then bailiffs contacting me, and obviously we worked out that it wasn't anything to do with me. I think when it was purchased, I was in Sydney Airport, so we confirmed it was, they weren't coming after me as such. But I then had to go down the route of the police doing a statement, and that went all the way to court, and the girl, she got convicted of it. So yeah, and obviously that friendship ended. But through that connection with spending time with the police, the comments the girl said out in Australia, and the fact that I'd made the decision that becoming a lawyer was maybe too much.
Yes.
I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. And even from the onset, it was a struggle. You had like an English assignment you had to write, and you could only have 4 spelling mistakes. So I wrote about my travels because it was so fresh in my mind.
So you had to write an assignment.
Yeah.
Or entrance exam, but you only have 4.
Yeah, 4 spelling mistakes. What you're allowed.
My dyscalculia nearly came up there. You need to have the 4 spelling mistakes. Wow.
I know that was quite nerve-wracking.
Wow,
if you had, if you had a formal diagnosis report, which I didn't have at the time because it was several £100 to go and get one, then my understanding was either the amount of spelling mistakes extended, or they kind of didn't factor it in. You just had to still write the assignment, the essay. But I didn't have that kind of money, so I had to just give it a go. So like I practiced with my family of writing out kind of verbatim what I wanted to write, and we were really careful with the big words that needed to be spelled, and we always laughed that it was probably full of 4-letter words, but I got through it.
But you got through it, that's the main thing. Yeah.
And then there was a maths exam, again terrifying. I'm in my 20s, I didn't do well at school, but my brother's friend was really academic with maths, so he did some tutoring with me, and again we done enough to show that okay, I'm a good candidate. Then you have the physical part of it where you're speaking to people, they're giving you a scenario, they're not expecting you to answer it like a police officer because you've not been one. But as I say, like with me working in nightclubs especially, you've got people with alcohol, people with drugs, things happening, calling the police. It's I had enough to bring, and so they said you talked your way in, and then they got me to do some extra stuff with English and maths once I joined. So.
And has that changed? Because as you know, in the New York Fire Department, if you're dyslexic, the exam is all oral, so you learn the stuff, but you sit down and you're asked a question, and you have to relate the question back as if you're writing about orally, and that's how if you're dyslexic, and that's how firemen do it I think in a lot of fire in the states, but definitely in New York. Have they brought that yet into the police forces in the UK that you're aware of?
So yeah, there's definitely things happening all the time, and there is changes always being discussed and talked about. One of the difficulties that the UK may always face really is that there's 43 different forces, and that's the territorial ones. So there's the MPA, the NCA and the nuclear police, and so there's ones around the edges as well. So there's so many, and every force has its own chief constable. And so, and then sort of everybody looks to the College of Policing for guidance and advice, but it is up to each force as to what they implement. So you're always working solo, and
it's fragmented completely. So there's not one overview.
What's definitely happening, and what is definitely improving, is the fact that the Equalities Act says you don't actually need a diagnosis to be provided generalized support and reasonable adjustments. And I think a lot of forces have really taken that on board. So when I joined Devon and Cornwall, I told them I was dyslexic. I mean, yes, I did have a full report. From Essex. But whether that mattered or not, they allow individuals who need it the questions ahead of the interview.
Oh, so very good. Okay.
Your answers. And again, I don't know if it's in every case, but it was in mine. I was allowed to take my interview notes into my interview. So if I had a memory blocker or went blank, I could actually refer to my notes because I could show that they were mine. So
Right.
they have definitely improved. There is still quite a bit of difficulty with the exam at times, because you're like the exams for becoming a sergeant, an inspector, or to become a detective, you can be provided extra time or breaks and things like that depending on what neurodivergent
Yeah.
strand you have. There's still a bit of pushback around the college wanting you to prove you need those adjustments, or your police force wanting you to prove it.
Right.
And then again, there's that bit of debate and
So having
negotiating
the
within the
diagnose
resources.
doesn't automatically get you the extra time and all that type of stuff. You still have to prove it if you're going for those exams.
So no, so if you've got a formal diagnosis, where you've been to an educational psychologist, psychiatrist for ADHD, autism, and that sort of thing, then that piece of paper is that's it. You show
Okay.
that you've got them. It's for those individuals. So obviously we know in the UK that there's still, I think I want to say up to sort of 7-year waiting list at times for ADHD or autism.
Yeah.
And depending on what postcode you're in, depends on if the right to choose pathway is an option, depends on if the NHS understand and know about that. So there's still a lot of gaps. And so when you've got that individual who maybe has gone through training college or is in the police and has realized, oh, I think I'm autistic, for instance, but I've never been formally diagnosed, you can't just go and get one unless you're going to pay thousands of pounds to go private. So then you'll tell your employer, well, I need this support. Well, what proof have you got? The College of Policing now, I believe, will accept if you've gone to your doctor and you've said to your GP, I would like to go on a journey to get assessed. Just that letter saying you've asked for that is
Oh,
sometimes enough.
will
But it's
work.
still,
Yeah.
it's not consistent across the board. And so another issue we have, which for dyslexic individuals is really useful, is a lot of police forces have now trained internal workplace dyslexia assessors. It's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
There is, yeah.
And they were trained originally. There was an officer. I think he was an inspector. He was trained from the British Dyslexia Association, and he was able to train people in his force and so on. And that's cascaded through every force. So a lot of them in the UK now have those, so they can assess you for dyslexia. If you left the force, that diagnosis wouldn't go with you in terms of what adjustments you would need.
Right, it's only for the police force.
But it follows you around your police force.
Right, okay.
So that is accepted by the college, but there isn't anybody that's trained in autism and ADHD, because you need a clinician, a medical expert,
To do that, yeah.
a psychiatrist to be able to diagnose that. So nobody in the forces should be diagnosing in any way. But as we say, because the Equality Act says you don't need a diagnosis, forces are able to support individuals, because someone asking for just noise cancelling headphones or some glasses to help them when they're looking at the screen, or someone asking for the understanding from their manager that they're not always going to be at their desk because they need to walk away and have screen breaks. They don't cost a lot.
But they don't cost anything.
It's simple. That should be. Well, that should be a natural thing.
Well, it's funny because, you would say it's good company etiquette to look after your staff. If you look at Guinness's and you look at Cadbury's in the UK and Bormont and all, they used to build cottages and all for their workers, A, to keep them close, but also to house them and make sure they had a certain standard of living. So you imagine in today's world, everyone's chasing the dollar, but still you try and look after people. That isn't affecting, actually, it's probably benefiting the company because they're probably doing more focus on the work by having that short break, or wearing those glasses, or having the blue screen or whatever. It's making them more effective.
Supporting your staff in your workforce, it doesn't matter whether it's the police or whatever it is, but supporting your staff, make them feel valued. Valued staff are more productive and you'll get far better retention.
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
a manager that shows that they support you, they understand you, they'll listen to you, and that they value you, you'll follow them anywhere.
Yeah, you really will. Yeah, it's very true. And then talking about the PNDA, and yeah, when it comes to 4-letter acronyms, I have to keep looking at the paper to make sure I remember it.
Sorry about that.
I made a mistake this week on someone else's one. If I get where it was, and it was completely the opposite way. But so when you started the Police National Dyslexic Association with you and 2 or 3 others, what was your aim and what is still your aim that you're hoping with all those 43 police forces? What are you hoping to bring to the table and change?
So in terms of how that all sort of started, so I passed the sergeant's exam in 2021. And then my first role was as a domestic abuse sergeant, which was absolutely brilliant. I've been heavily involved in domestic abuse now for, I think, nearly 5 years. I'm a domestic abuse specialist. I've done homicide timeline training, lots of stuff around coercive controlling behaviour. And I've done that as a sergeant and as a domestic abuse officer, where you're heavily supporting the victim and doing MARAC referrals and all the safeguarding. So very invested in that world. It's massive validation and helping people and making such a difference. Obviously, it's funny you said earlier about the paperwork, because I don't know a role in the police as heavy in terms of your paperwork as being a detective, being in domestic abuse, being in homicide. Yeah, there is a lot to read, a lot to digest. And again, that's that coping mechanism. Small pieces, take your time, headphones, music, take yourself away, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
I've had to do just to do the job, and I can do it, and I have done it very well, and I know I have. But it takes a lot out of you with those
I imagine mentally and physically, yeah.
Oh,
And
absolutely,
emotionally,
absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes I think you come home and you forget what your name is or what you've done that day.
Yeah.
But so once I was started to go on that sergeant journey, and I was involved with helping victims and survivors of domestic abuse, I then wanted to look at what else I could do. And somebody said, what about joining an ethics committee? But I've made the joke before that, oh, they're doing that to get promoted. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to make that sort of joke and then be someone that goes and does something extra just to get noticed. So someone said to me, what about neurodiversity? You're dyslexic. You've been an advocate in Essex before you left. What about getting involved in that and doing it properly and always doing it? So that's kind of where it went, really. I became a SPOC, specific point of contact within the force for dyslexia inquiries. I became a peer supporter. I then became the vice chair of the internal network. So lots of forces have disability and neurodiversity networks. So I became the vice chair of that. Then I was at a talk one day, and someone said, "Oh, why isn't there a dyslexia association?" And they were referring to sort of the MPAA, the National Autism one. And so I had a look into it. There wasn't one. He became founder number 2. And then we brought on a couple of other people, and sort of over 23 and 24, people sort of drifted off. And then it ended up with just the 3 of us. And I don't do things by halves. And when I do things, I go big. So I made sure before we launched, we had a foothold in every police force in the UK. So we're not known by every person in every force, but there are people in each force who know we exist.
And that can refer people to you if they need support.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then once I did that, we made sure we built a full website full of information rather than just sort of a page and then let it launch. And then somehow I managed to build the right connections and got talking with the Lord, and we launched in the Houses of Parliament, in the House of Lords, followed by New Scotland Yard.
Very impressive.
So it was quite a day. It was quite a career-defining moment. We had 80 guests, or 85, I think, all from different forces around the UK, including Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and people from America that came that support the network. I think 75 of them attended because it was Parliament. I don't think they even knew why they were coming.
And why would that surprise you? Why would that surprise you?
But the photos look good, so it's fine. In terms of like who we are and what we do, I want to blow the lid off of stigma. I want to change the fact that people still seem to think that, oh, if you're dyslexic, then you'll think, act and behave the same way as that dyslexic. No, one size doesn't fit all. We're all different. And I want to make sure that people know that it's okay, that it's fine to be neurodiverse. You just think differently. And again, reminding them that so do I, so do you, so does everyone listening to this.
And also probably to let people know, especially people who are looking to join the force, who really want to join the force, but thinking, well, will the dyslexia hold them back, or the ADHD? That the answer is no. That it won't hold them back, that there is a route in there, and there is there's no reason why you can't go, which we've talked about before. There's assistant commissioners who are dyslexic right up through the ranks, in all different types of police forces. So it won't hold you back.
Absolutely. And that's, like I said at the beginning, it's about being realistic. So I'm unfortunately nearly 40. That's fast approaching me. And I sort of accepted I won't be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have been, but I think being realistic suggests it's not going to happen for me now. So, we can't do everything. You can't achieve everything. There's too many things to do. But it's about, if there is a career path that you like the idea of, whether that is being a lawyer, being a judge, being a business owner, being a hairdresser, being a surgeon, being a teacher. My daughter, she wants to become a teacher. You'll love it. An English teacher. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Like,
Brilliant.
of all of the types of languages and all of the teachers. Yeah, Mum. Yeah, don't worry about your English. I'll be all right. I want to be an English teacher.
Well, the good thing is she has the experience of you in all the in the area of dyslexia, all that type of stuff. So she'll be the type of teacher that will bring all that with her and make it used into the classroom.
And bringing that inclusive nature and just the different styles of teaching, and you haven't got to put people in a box. But yeah, so whatever you want to do, seek it out, but do it realistically. If you're going to go for a career that's going to have a lot of paperwork and a lot of pressure, I mean, I thrive off the pressure with the ADHD, and then the challenge is the paperwork with dyslexia.
Yeah.
But, when you pick what you want to do, don't let it be a barrier. Let it be a challenge, and just be realistic with all of the things you're potentially going to have to put in place to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone listening to this now within the police forces in the UK, or even someone, a parent or a career guidance teacher, or someone who's thinking of, okay, I wouldn't have sent some of my students that route, but now after listening to this, whether it's been a lawyer or a police officer, if they want to make contact with yourself or your organisation, just to get some background information and some help, how will they find you?
So literally, you can just search on Google Police Dyslexia Association, or even PNDA Association, or just Police Dyslexia. I think all of them literally bring it straight up. The full term is the PNDA. I had to think about that then. The Police National Dyslexic Association. But you can find it all manner of ways. And please don't think that we'll only give advice to people that are in the police, because we won't. We give advice to parents. We give advice to schools. It's anyone, and just, I suppose, anyone listening to this, please believe it. Like, I've done 15 years service across 2 police forces. Before it, I was a chef and a car mechanic and worked in bars. Since being in, I've been a PC, I've been a domestic abuse officer, I've been a sergeant twice, I've been a domestic abuse specialist. I'm now the chair of a national network. Just, you can do anything that you set your mind to. I've had challenges my whole life with neurodiversity, and unfortunately those scales have weighed out quite well with success and challenge, and it's not easy.
No.
But if you understand that and you know that, you can push through.
You can do anything you want. Absolutely. Well, Maria, thanks so much for talking to us this morning.
No worries.
And as I said, folks, we're going to have a series of these interviews, and if you need any more information, you can just go directly to theparagraphchallenge.com. Or email me, markbeggs@gmail.com. And this interview will be on YouTube, it'll be on LinkedIn, it'll be also on Spotify for anyone that wants to just listen to it as an audio. It'll be there as well. And if anybody wants transcripts of the interview, they'll be available as well as a download with the stuff on YouTube. So there's no problem getting that as well. So Maria, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And have a great day. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.